shift your perspective. Because when you shift your perspective, you shift your circumstances. See you soon. Good morning. It is Tuesday morning. Um, we are using going back to the old platform. So it looks like I might have to change my mic back again, my additional mic, because it's acting kind of weird. So hopefully you guys will be able to hear me well. I know you can hear me on the station. I am Laurel Rutledge, your host of the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show, live here on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost, the global network for KCOH, right? And so I am so happy to be here. It is Tuesday, November 8th. It's election day. Y'all know I'm always turned up on election day. And I am again today, of course. So I got two pins on today. I got my pink and green on. The AKAs are strolling to the polls. There's so much. So we're going to talk about today. The idea of today is about not worrying and anxiety, the power. You can turn that worry into power. Faith without actions is dead, y'all. So we're going to talk about moving into action. And I know it's Vision Month, but with everything that's going on, we gotta talk about like doing some stuff. And I don't know about all of y'all, but I am pretty anxious today. As excited as I am, I'm also pretty anxious. So instead of talking about this stuff at the end, like I normally do, for those of you who are joining me, so hopefully everybody can get on, because I'm using StreamYard now. So I'm back to StreamYard. So remember to allow StreamYard to have your name so you can make comments so I can see them. So we're going to talk about that. And it really hit me this morning. I had to do my Fred Hammond this morning on the way in, man. I needed some Jesus in my life this morning, because I am anxious and concerned, but also excited, man. It is, because it's election day. It is election day, and I just love me some election day. So a few things before we dive into the topic. Good morning. For those of you who have joined, I see two people watching. I don't see your comments yet or your name. So just let me know who you are and where you are. So today, voting day in the U.S., the following states have same day voter registration and casting your ballot on election day. Okay, so the following states you can do that: Washington, Idaho, Hawaii, Nevada, California, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, Virginia, Maryland, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, and the District of Columbia. So there's following places, those 20 places plus the District of Columbia. There were a couple of others that you can vote early in person, but you wouldn't be able to register. You can register and vote the same day during early voting, but not on election day. But those I read, if you did not register, you can actually go register and vote today in those states. Now, here's the deal today. Make sure that you are going to your actual polling place. On election day, you have to go to your official polling place, which means, good morning, Mama Young. It is election day. I'm so excited. Make sure you are going to your official polling place on election day. They will turn you away if you're not at your official polling place. If you do not know where it is, if you feel like you can't find it, ask for a provisional ballot at a minimum so that you can at least cast something, right? And I know I'm not saying cheat. I'm saying ask for your provisional ballot. Sometimes they're closing stuff down. They're not letting folks know. I mean, there's all kinds of shady shenanigans going on. I heard this morning on the news, there's some stuff going on in Georgia again, them purging people from the polls again. So they got some stuff happening there. We all heard about what was happening in Arizona, all the voter intimidation at the ballot boxes, those drop boxes. So please be safe today. Please be safe today. We are hearing lots of rhetoric. Even some of our security forces or agencies have come out and said they were hearing lots of chatter. Some of that is just to make us afraid to go vote, right? Some of that is just making us afraid to go vote. But there are people who really did die for us to be able to do this, who really did face guns and dogs and water hoses and all that other kind of stuff and bombs on buses, right? The Freedom Riders who did that so that we could all have a voice. So, but please be safe today. Watch out around you. Pay attention to what's going on. Know your rights. Go to whenweallvote.org. I had pinned to my Facebook page and my LinkedIn page, and I put it on Instagram as well. I think, good morning, Sarah. I pinned those your election rights or your voting rights, as well as the election protection hotline numbers. English, 866-687-8683 or 866 our vote, 866 our vote. In Spanish, 888-839-8682. That's in Spanish. In Espanol, 888-839-8682. In Arabic, 844-925-5287. 844-925-5287. That's in Arabic. These are your election protection hotlines. If something crazy happens to you, call these numbers. Asia Pacific Islanders, 888-274-8683. The languages there are Bengali, Cantonese, Urdu, Hindi, Korean, Mandarin, Tagalog, and Vietnamese. So if you need some help on election day, call one of these numbers. If somebody's doing something crazy to you, call one of these numbers. Make sure if you walk in, you got your voter registration card. You don't really need to take your voter registration card anymore, but I always take mine just in case. Your voter registration card, your ID, because we have all these ID laws now. Make sure you take that stuff with you. Go and get your sample ballot. I took mine in there with me. Our ballot was 14 million pages long, y'all, because every judge in Harris County was up for election. So take your sample ballot, mark it if you need to. Take it in paper. You can't use your phone in the polling places. Take the paper with you, have it printed out. Make sure you double check it. We have new machines in Harris County. You go in, you get your little number, you log that in. You have to place the paper into the machine, you vote. And at the end, it takes the paper through the machine. You have to take those 2 pieces of paper to the last machine to actually cast your vote. So do not leave. If you're leaving with those pieces of paper that they gave you in your hand, your vote is not cast. Okay, so make sure you understand and ask questions. Those poll workers, the people who are there, the people who are actually working in the polls are there because they believe in voting. They believe in giving people the opportunity to cast their vote. Don't worry about those folks on the outside. Those are some of the ones that may not have your best interest in mind. But the folks working in the polls, at least on the machines, are supposedly ones that are really wanting to make sure that your vote gets counted. So make sure that you understand how that process works, okay? And show up. If you are in line before the polls close, and make sure you're in line before the polls close. If you are in line before the polls close, they must let you vote. I don't care if it's dark 30. If you are in line before the polls close, they must let you vote. Okay. Someone posted yesterday, they went to a different polling place because they had closed theirs down and not notified them. So please get the official polling place, know where you're going. Nobody has time to be driving all over town to vote. However, I would do that. If somebody's trying to keep me from doing it, I would be in my car, just call in and take that day off. I would make sure that nobody took my vote, but that's just me. Okay. So today, go out and vote. All right. Whew. Y'all, I'm really excited. So today we're going to talk about kind of that worry and anxiety and how you can move that into power and kind of get through that. For those of you who have been listening to me, for those of you who know me, so the people that I see right now know me well. I am a woman of faith. I don't talk about it all the time. Well, I do kind of talk about it, but I don't talk about it like a lot of people talk about it. And this morning, as I said, as I was driving in, man, me and Fred Hammond were just having church this morning because I could feel my anxiety rising. I love election day, y'all. I love this vote. And my parents instilled that in us very, very young. The right to vote. I remember for my Odessa peeps, I remember walking into the entry into the auditorium for Blackshear and doing the little pin that you poke, the hanging Chad debacle. I remember going in and doing my first vote. I was so excited to vote the first time. And so it's always been something that's important to me. And then as I got older and started watching TV and paying attention to more stuff, because that's the beauty of getting older. That's also the challenge of getting older. You start paying attention to a lot of things. And do y'all remember Tim Russert on NBC? He actually wrote a book called Big Russ and Me that's excellent. But Tim Russert is probably the person that even more solidified this excitement about voting for me and excitement about election day, because he was so excited on election day. On election night, he was there with his little whiteboard that he could hold in his hand, his little dry erase marker, talking about the states and what it was looking like and the polling numbers. He was, and nonpartisan. He was just really trying to educate people and tell people what's going on. And you could feel he was the guy who was the moderator of Meet the Press before the current person. He was just incredible. And so he made me really excited about voting and what happened and all of those things. And then I started thinking about these elections coming up now and all these commercials that are crazy. And, you know, if you don't want crime, vote out all the Democratic judges. I mean, there's some crazy stuff happening here in Texas. And we got to remember, commercials are meant to move you to do some things, right? That's why it's called advertising. Those ads are meant to shock you or scare you or do all those kind of things. They are there for a purpose, not always the purpose being your best interest. And so I'm listening to all these commercials. I'm thinking about all the stuff that we've been going through in Texas, that we've been going through as women, that we've been going through since the election in 2020, thinking about all the conspiracy theories and the big lie and people still perpetrating that, and what's happening in Georgia with Warnock and Walker and all of these kind of things, and thinking about my business and wanting to get ready for 2023 and finding people to support me in that. And there's stuff I want to do and things I need to do to feed me. And I mean, just all the things, right? All the things. And I started getting more and more anxious. And like, I can't watch the returns tonight. I cannot watch the returns. I haven't watched the returns in a long time. It's like my nerves can't take it anymore, right? I haven't stayed up to watch returns in so long because I just get so nervous. I can't take it. And so I was like, okay, Laurel, are you going to watch the returns? What are you going to do? Because this is serious. Are you going to watch the returns? We're getting all these polling numbers. You got to be careful about polling numbers too, y'all. Just be careful. It's not done till it's done. And it started making me think about this worry and anxiety that we have a lot of times when things are hard. And today I came armored up, right? I got 2 voting pins on, right? I got my Sparkle vote. I got my AKA vote. I started thinking about the 20 Pearls documentary, and it is something that you can find. Anyone, for those of you interested in the Divine Nine, for sure. For all of my AKA sorrows, you definitely need to make sure you've watched it. And for all of the Divine Nine, the history of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and in particular, the part about the suffrage movement and the right to vote, and the fact that these women were at the forefront and refused to be marginalized. Because see, what people fail to tell you, because we have a tendency not to teach full history, which is a whole different conversation, right? What people fail to tell you is that the suffrage movement, including those at the forefront, like Susan B. Anthony, et cetera, were all about making sure that women had the right to vote, but not Black women. Only certain women were supposed to be fighting for the right to vote. But these women of Alpha Kappa Alpha were like, we're not having that. So they didn't ask to go. They just said, we just want to make sure to know exactly where to stand. Because see, we're going to be there at the march. We will show up. We just want to make sure we're standing in the right place, right? We're not going to be marginalized. We're not going to be quiet. We are going to fight this fight because we have a voice and we intend to use this voice, right? So even with all the anxiety, I started thinking about that because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to wear this morning. Then I saw my AKA vote pin. I'm like, we doing pink and green today. And then I saw some sorrow stroll into the polls. I mean, all this kind of thing. But I still have this anxiety about what's going on. And so I had a cousin's call on the weekend. So I am, yeah. So on my dad's side, so my mom was an only child. My dad was one of 3 boys. And on my dad's side, we have all these cousins. And so there's some of us who try to do a cousin's call on a regular basis. We haven't been really good about it, but we're trying to do better. And this particular cousin, they call us Wonder Twins because we do tend to have the same response to stuff. We call it the Rutledge crazy. You know, I've talked about that before. I look all nice and polished and maybe kind of silly on the outside, but see, there's a streak in there that just be careful. Don't mistake kindness for weakness. And every once in a while that shows up sometimes at the most inopportune times. And sometimes because, see, you push me past my limit. So we're having this cousin's call and we were talking about, we were Wonder Twins. So we both have this bracelet. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. We both have this bracelet, right? So I got mine at James Avery, and then I saw it for his birthday one year, or it was a graduation gift. I said, oh, here's another one. So we got one for him. And he had it on yesterday. He said, see, wonder when I got my bracelet on. I didn't have mine on Sunday when we talked. But I got it on today so I am armed up today. And so I started thinking about that and thinking about these women, this history of women who said, not only us two, but absolutely, hell yeah, us too. We're showing up. You're going to have to fight us to not let us show up. And not that they weren't worried or anxious, because there was a lot of anxiety around it. But what do we do with that? And so as we were talking on my cousin's call, we were talking about a bunch of things. And so I armored up this morning. You know, I can do all things. We can do this. And then I remembered my grandmother, Johnny C. Rutledge, the woman who had a piano student who didn't have a piano at home and who only came to see her once a week to take piano lessons, for whom she painted a 2x4 with a keyboard for her to practice on at home, and who won a state music competition. This is the stuff I'm made of. Okay, this is the stuff I'm made of. And I started thinking about Johnny C. And every time you call her, hey, grandma, how you doing? Hebrews 13:8. Every time. That was her first response. Every time. Hebrews 13:8. I'm Hebrews 13:8. Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so I had that in my mind this morning. I was like, you know what? I am worried. I am concerned. I am quite anxious about what may happen. I'm anxious about my business, right? Because if we really go into a recession, that's a whole different thing, right? I'm anxious for my life. I'm anxious for the life of the people that I love who look like me, people of color. I'm anxious for women. I've got a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry about a lot of things, as I think many of us do. Plus the COVID thing, right? All made us a little nuts. So I'm armed up with, Hebrews 13:8. I'm armed up in my pink and green. I'm thinking about my grandmother. And then I said, you know what? But there are options. There are options to turn our worry and our anxiety and our concern and our fear into power. That's what I love about election day and love about voting. Voting feels like power to me. I'm like getting like pumped up when I just think about it. Voting is power. It feels like power to me. My chance to use my voice, my chance to say absolutely yes or absolutely no, my chance to have input. Voting is power. Your voice is power, right? And so as I started thinking about that, I'm like, I don't talk a lot about my faith. I don't talk about a lot about being a woman of faith. Although I have said, I know who I am and I know whose I am. And I know God's got this. I'm the issue. He knows what he's doing. I'm the problem. And so as I started thinking, I was like, there's got to be other stuff. I know there's other stuff that talks about this whole idea of anxiousness and anxiety and fear and worry, but turns it into power, right? And so as I was reading and doing my meditation this morning, Matthew 6:25-34, verse 34 is, therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself, right? Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. In other words, don't go asking for trouble, right? Don't go worry in advance. And so as I think about these elections that are coming up and what could happen after that, and are we going to lose the Senate? Are we going to lose the House? What's going to happen if that happens? What about affirmative action that looks like it's going to get overturned? Because it probably is. They've been waiting for this. Clarence Thomas, bless his heart, has been waiting for this. And I have to say bless his heart because they say pray for your enemies, right? They've been waiting for this day. The big day, have been waiting for this day. And okay, there's some fundamental arguments around, do we even need it anymore? Do we need to be considering race at all in anything anymore? Fundamentally, I would argue that we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to. But the playing field is still not level, and there is still systemic issues. Systemic issues still exist. And so the only thing that will tell us when they overturn it, because I do believe that's coming, whether or not the impact continued to be negative, is time. But the other side of that, again, do not worry for tomorrow, right? Don't pull up stuff for tomorrow, right? To worry about. The thing I thought was, they overturned affirmative action. We're already starting to see the trend. I say, let's all start going to HBCUs. Don't go nowhere else. Don't go to the UTs. Don't go to the A&Ms. Don't go to the Harvards. Don't go to the Stanfords. Don't go to the Yales. Go to the HBCUs. We're already seeing top athletes choose an HBCU. What happens? What happens if we use all of our anxiety, all of our worry, all of our concern, all of our defeatedness, and all of our fight in the right place? What if we say, okay, we've had this conversation. You've now made your play. Now I know the rules. And because I know the rules, I know how I want to respond. Right? So it's important for us to think a little bit more about using our worry and anxiety and our concern for something productive, because you can get in, it's easy to get into that dorsal, right? That I'm just going to go to bed. There's nothing I can do. Or get into that place of, you know what? I'm just not going to vote. I'm just not going to vote. It doesn't make sense. All this, I can see it coming. I'm just not going to vote. Well, let me say to you folks, you say that, especially those of y'all who are trying to beat folks up with scripture. You're in the church every day. Every day is open. You're there. Let me lay this on you. Faith without works is dead. The work is voting. The work is educating yourself on the issues and going to vote. The work is getting registered and getting other people registered. The work is holding people accountable for what they said they were going to do. The work is saying that everyone should have access to healthcare. Everyone should not be burdened under insane interest rates, right? Notice I did not say they should be removed from debt. That's not what I said. They shouldn't be burdened by insane interest rates. Everyone has the right to exist peacefully and not worry about whether or not they're going to get a bullet in the head every time they walk out of their house. But that takes work. And so we can have all kinds of faith, because faith is knowing without seeing, right? We can have all of that. But faith without works is dead. Do the work. Do the work. And that also means about your business, about your career, right? Do the work. How are you mastering your craft? How are you showing up and delivering your value through the expertise that you have? How are you making things happen and working in order to achieve the things you are having faith that will manifest for you? What work are you doing? So anxiousness and worry become powerful only when we turn that energy into work, when we turn that energy into action, when we turn that energy into a clarification of vision. I spent all day yesterday looking at my financials for this year and for next year. Y'all, that's a lot of work, right? And even looking at how I'm going to redo my QuickBooks and how I need to realign some account, all this kind of thing, right? I spent all day doing that, looking at numbers, redoing numbers, realigning things, deciding what I was going to do, how that looked, how much I needed to sell in order to do the things I needed to do. How, if I want to give at a certain level, how do I make sure that the things coming in enable me to give? And then how do I push my faith to give anyway? To give anyway. Because to whom much is given, much is expected. Or if you'd rather, to whom much is given, much is required. How do I ensure that I'm taking all that worry and anxiety, especially when I'm doing that inside of my business stuff, looking at the numbers, which always makes me nervous? How do I turn that into action, right? Okay, Laurel, here's the numbers. You know what you need to do to make these numbers happen. Now, how do you make that happen? How do you go have those conversations? How do you go make that money work in order for you to make the impact that you say you want to make, that you feel called to make? Knowing that everything isn't about money. Sometimes it's just about energy and presence and showing up. How do you make sure that you are paying attention to those kind of things on a regular basis and turning that worry and anxiety and concern into action to move forward to make an impact? Because it's easy to get set in, I'm so worried, I don't know, it's not going to happen, it's going to be awful, you know, this is just it's just bad. And in some ways it is bad, right? Some ways it is bad. And yet, you know, it is important for those of us with good hearts, for those of us with deep desires, for those of us with a focus on greater good, to be able to come to the forefront and take action to move forward and help others move forward, to be a beacon of light and hope for someone else. I was talking to someone the other day who was referred to me, and she's just lovely, and I'm so glad we had a chance to connect. And I'm not going to say her name only because I did not ask her permission to do that. So I'll just tell you the story. And so we were talking about a bunch of things, and I think I said this yesterday. She's like, I don't know, because I don't have this, I don't have that, I haven't done this, I haven't been there as long, and you've been so much longer. And I'm like, you know what we forget is our experience, our exposure is what someone else is wishing for, what someone else is looking for. And so when we're anxious and worried and concerned and being in that space of not good enough, not ready, not enough clarity, need to waiting for perfection, waiting for all of the little things, we forget that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is show up. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be present, to give somebody a good word, to give somebody a kind word, to say something uplifting to someone else, even when you don't feel like it. Just the smile, just smile. I was in a store not too long ago, or maybe I was walking down the street. I can't remember, y'all. My days are running together. And it was one of those days, but I was walking past someone, and it's just training, y'all. It's just training. You nod your head to speak. Black folks do this all the time. We don't even know who the person is, but you see another Black person, you nod, you acknowledge. I don't know where that comes from, but you acknowledge that the other person is there. And I remember walking by and kind of smiling and nodding, kind of, hi. And they actually paused, and I thought, oh, but they paused and said, thank you for seeing me. And I was like, huh? I was confused. They said, no, it's just been one of those days where it looks like I'm invisible. And for you to actually look in my eye and say good morning was just really nice. And then they kept walking. And I thought, wow, we don't know who's watching. We don't know what other people are going through. And so when we can know that everything we do, every person we touch, every time we show up can turn into something really powerful, it gives us the ability to turn that worry and that anxiety and that concern and that unworthiness into something meaningful, into something powerful, into something hopeful for other people. And so if you are anxious and worried and all that kind of stuff right now, like I think a lot of us are on this amazing election day, and it's a beautiful day here in Houston too. And it's been crazy for the last couple of weeks, but today the sun is shining and it is beautiful, right? Gonna be 80 degrees in November. If you're feeling all of that, just know, one, whatever your faith practice is, know that there is something bigger than you and that you can do all things, right? That you can do all things, that you have it within you and that there's a greater plan. Just know that. Just know that. And that today is but a moment. Today is but a moment. This period of time is but a moment in a life lived. And so how do you take whatever it is that's making you anxious or worried or concerned today and turn it into action, right? As much as I hate looking at numbers, I do. And I'm a numbers person, right? My undergrad is in accounting. I believe in looking at the numbers. You got to know your numbers. But looking at the numbers for my own business always gives me pause. It always gives me concern. It's always been that way, right? Once I left corporate where I had something coming in every 2 weeks, right? Even though I was miserable, that level of stability was comforting. There was a comfort in that I didn't have to worry about it because I knew it was coming. But when you go out on your own, it's like, if you don't kill it, you don't eat. And the bills don't go away just and wait until you make money, right? And then they start back. That's not how that works. But not looking at them doesn't make them going away. Not looking at the numbers doesn't mean the numbers just automatically turn into what you want them to be. In fact, it's just the opposite. And that procrastination around those things, I saw this the other day, again, that worry and anxiety can lead to procrastination. And I read, this was a couple of days ago, maybe it was over the weekend, I read, procrastination actually ends up being a level of self-soothing. If you think about people who rock, all the time, and I have a tendency to do that sometimes, people who rock, right? There's real extremes of self-soothing, cutting that, and I don't remember the name, where people actually pull out like pull out their eyelashes or pull out. There's a soothing processes, self-soothing processes. And they were talking about how procrastination at its core is actually a self-soothing process, right? It is a way to protect you from that thing that you really don't want to do for whatever reason that you're afraid of, or that gives you anxiety, that makes you nervous or worried. But the challenge with procrastination as a self-soothing process, just like many of those others that are extreme, is that after you procrastinate, the thing is still there. The thing you didn't do is still there waiting for you to do it. The numbers will still be there. The information is still there that I need to move forward in what I want to do. And by not going ahead and moving forward with doing the thing that I'm anxious about, I'm only setting myself back, which creates more procrastination because it creates more worry, right? It's a death spiral. And so sometimes it's about pausing and, dare I say, forcing yourself sometimes to just take a baby step. Just open the file. Just log into the account. Just make the phone call. Just start on the presentation. Just do one slide. You know, I find that when there's something that I've been procrastinating about, if I'll just take one step, the energy starts to flow. There's something about having actually stepped into the thing that I didn't really want to do, that I was nervous about, that gives energy. And I don't know that that would work for everyone, but there's something about overcoming the procrastination that actually drives a little bit more energy, right? And I always think, again, I have to go back and say, wait, if you say you know who you are and whose you are, if you say you have faith, if you say that you know that there's a plan, and sometimes rejection is protection, and that just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. If you really say those things and believe those things, then you've also got to believe that when you're anxious and you're worried, his consolation will bring you joy if you will allow it to. If you will stand in that, right? If you will stand in the fact that you are here for a purpose, you have your own unique genius. Someone is needing you and looking for you and wanting your help. They're wanting your assistance. They are needing your support. They're needing your smile. They're needing your kind word. Even complete strangers, right? They're needing your assistance. Those kind of things can actually take you out of that space of just me, 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 me. I can't believe, I can't believe, I can't believe. When you find yourself using I more than anything else, take a pause. What is that? Because it's not about me. And if you're truly a leader and you believe in servant leadership, it's most definitely not about you. It's about the people you're trying to serve. If you don't care about voting, do you care about the other people who are impacted by your failure to vote? Because I got to tell you, the folks who are excited about stopping your right to vote are voting. The folks who are excited about limiting your choices are voting. The folks who feel real good about conspiracy theories and all that stuff, they're voting. About purging people who shouldn't be purged, about closing polling places, about getting rid of straight ticket because they didn't like the impact last time. Those folks are voting. They are voting. They are showing up. Those folks that are telling you, oh, how's your little business going? Oh, I don't know how you did that. Why'd you start your own thing? Those people who are that passive aggressive, oh yeah, just let me know. I'll show up and support. They are always going to be there. Always. They're going to always be in your light. But not to spread your light, but to dim your light. They're always going to show up. So how do you show up? Because the only way to break through the darkness is to bring forth the light. That's the only way. That's the only way. And so when you are feeling anxious and worried and concerned and, oh my God, I can't believe, right? Stop. How do I turn this energy into something positive? Whatever it is I need. For me, again, it's music. Whatever playlist I need to play that day to get my energy back up, that's what I do. It's that baby step, that one thing I can do that'll kind of turn the energy. It's lighting that candle. I got a candle. that's got like vanilla and it's got coffee beans and all that kind of stuff in it. And the name of the candle is Boss B. That's the name of the candle. I love that candle. Every once in a while, I just have to light it up. It was lit yesterday, and I got so much done. Right? It's those things we put in our mind that kind of get us moving. I've got a mug that says CEO that's sitting right in front of a picture of my dad. It's a newspaper clipping of my dad. And I've got it leaned against my wall. When I rearranged and cleaned everything, remember, cluttered desk, cluttered mind. So I had to clean out my office, clean out my space. I've now got open space and it just feels so good. And when I moved some things around, I took this picture off the wall and I put it on my stand in the back of behind my desk. So I see it. I can see it in the camera when I'm recording my podcast or doing anything on camera. I actually see it behind me. And it's my dad sitting there. Right. And my little mug says CEO. I don't even know where I got the mug that said CEO. Somebody probably sent it to me. I still got it wrapped in the plastic. I've never used it, but I got it sitting there. And so when my stomach starts getting bubbly and I'm concerned and my nerves get bad, I stop and look at all of those things. I think about Johnny C. Hebrews 13:8. I think about all these women of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated who fought in the suffrage movement, who were the first to incorporate one of the Divine Nine, right? Who were innovators and forward thinkers. I think about that. Who were not willing to step aside. I think about John Lewis and Making Good Trouble. I think about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and dissenting. I think about Barbara Jordan, right? I think about all of these women, Shirley Chisholm. I think about all of these men and women who went before me and made some things happen under much more dire circumstances. It is hard for us today in our world for what we know. But those whole jokes we make about, well, I had to walk 12 miles in the snow uphill both ways, right? All that funny stuff we talk about. The hardship was different. We've gotten used to instant gratification. We've gotten used to immediate access. We've gotten used to a lot of things that in many ways make life easier. So when it gets a little tough, we get a little upset or anxious or scared or worried. But we can turn that into something powerful by just pausing and saying, wait, what am I trying to do? Where am I trying to go? What is the impact I'm trying to make? And how do I do that in the best way possible, even if it's one teeny tiny step, one call, one note, one smile, one word, one thing. Putting on a pin, putting on a pearl ring, putting on my James Avery bracelet, right? Making sure I'm doing my meditation, playing my music in my playlist. What are the things that you do that when you recognize, because I know if you're listening to me, you've got a self-awareness gene and you're working on it all the time. What do you do when you feel that anxiety to turn that around into something powerful? Worry and anxiety and fear and concern can all be turned around to be your superpowers. They can be, because you're not going to get through this life without worry and anxiety and fear. That's just not going to happen. But you can be in joy every day. And you can take that and turn it around. You can know that this is but a moment. But a moment. And we're going to do some shout outs here in a minute. But I really want you guys to think through, what does it really mean? What does it really mean to understand that we are all here for a purpose? And that we all have an ability to make an impact in our little sphere of influence, whatever that is. I am really dry today. Okay, so quick sidebar, because it's live radio and y'all know me by now. I think I burned my tongue with this mouthwash yesterday. Like, my tongue has felt so weird since then. So I just always have concerns. I'm always like, oh Lord, I'm going to get gum disease. So I'm always swishing stuff around and I'm just always concerned. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to old school. I'm going to go get some old school mouthwash and, that'll really just antiseptic stuff. And I did that yesterday. And I swear my tongue has felt like it's been burned for 2 days now. It's the weirdest feeling. So he's spending some drinking water. I'm like, what did I do? I didn't drink. My coffee wasn't that hot yesterday. All that kind of stuff. Anyway, just a little chuckle for y'all. I know, Tisa. Thank you for loving me because you've known me since our mothers were pregnant, girl. So I'm I'm a little off sometimes. So thank you for still loving me and being in my village. Anyway, so I really want us to see that's worry too. Worry not. My teeth are gonna fall out. I don't think my teeth are gonna fall out, but I have to have something to be concerned about. So, there could be worse things, I guess. I don't know, because I do like to eat. So, as we get ready to do these shout outs, because I'm totally off topic now. As we get ready to do these shout outs, I had to really work as I walked in today because Jerry's like, don't be bringing all that energy up in here. Where you going? So some days I'm down, sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm even. But election day really does get me fired up, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It torques my energy. It really does. And if you combine that energy and excitement with the worry and anxiousness and downright irritation and all this BS that we got going on right now, it is an interesting combination for energy. Mm-hmm. Which is why this topic today around worry and anxiety and fear and turning that into power is so important, because our vote is power. It is powerful. And even if you are scared to death, you don't think your vote's going to make a difference, you don't know what's going to happen, it absolutely will not make a difference if you don't use it. The same thing in your business. You cannot move forward in your business if you don't understand what makes your business run. You cannot move forward in your career if you do not understand what your value is that you're bringing based on your expertise and your experience and how that adds value to the organization. Because if it's not yours, that means it's somebody else's, and you've got to demonstrate to them the value that you bring in their words, right? In their words. How do you demonstrate to them that you bring value, that you are valuable? And if that all gets off kilter, then you have a choice. Don't be scared. Don't be worried. Don't be anxious. You have a choice. Make a plan. Don't hurt you because you're mad at them, but you have a choice. And if you pay attention and you listen, people will reveal themselves to you early. Believe them the first time. That includes organizations. You know your organization's culture. You know how it really operates. If you are politically savvy at all, you know what they say versus what they really do. And you know where the gaps are. So I tell people all the time, have those conversations, let them make the first play, then you know the rules. Okay, I got you. Now that I know the rules, I can decide how I want to play the game. I have a really good friend of mine. She is incredible. I keep trying to talk her into being on my podcast, and she's being stubborn. I'm not going to call her name out, but you know who you are. Mm-hmm. But I remember years ago we were talking, and she's like, I just can't play these politics. I just cannot play these politics. And this woman is brilliant, brilliant. Laurel, I just can't play these politics. And I said, stop. Words matter. Yes, you can. Any Black woman in corporate knows how to play politics because you're there. It's not a can or a can't. It's a decision whether or not you're going to. And then once you decide you are, how you're going to do it. Because we are probably some of the best folks playing politics when we choose to play them than anybody, because we've had to for generations. We've had to. It's a superpower for many generations. Now, some of the new folks, I don't know, because y'all haven't had to do some of the same stuff we had to do. That's just a matter of life changing, right? Not of intellect or capability, just experience and exposure. But it's that challenge of, I may not want to, but I can if I have to. Don't worry about it. Be about it. All right, let's do some shout outs.
We have Lebanon in the building.
Oh, that's new.
Mexico, Panama, France, Romania, Brazil in the building, Germany, Finland, United Kingdoms, Singapore.
Welcome back, Singapore.
Frankfurt. We have Panama City, Bucharest, Helsinki, London is in the building. Noted by Piggy is out there. Philadelphia, Charlotte, San Antonio, New York, Chicago, St. Louis, Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, Kansas City, and Houston.
Yay! Hey, y'all. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for being here. I am so excited that you are um, on this KCOH Global Network here in Houston, Texas, in the historic Third Ward on the corner of Alameda and Wichita. I am just I'm so honored and so blessed. And that's the other thing when you get anxious, go back and practice some gratitude. We are in Gratitude Month. When you get all worked up, stop. What am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? What is going on that is such a blessing to me in this moment? And let me stand on that. Let me stand on that. Let me stand on that thing or those many things that are a blessing to me in this moment. Let me stand on those. Ooh, I got hiccups. Let me make sure that I remember all of the things that are possible. Let me make sure that I remember who I am and whose I am. Let me make sure I remember the impact I'm trying to make, the overall goal. I apologize, y'all, those hiccups. Make sure that I am focused on the right thing. I'm keeping my eyes on the prize. I'm staying true to my purpose. Ooh, which reminds me, Jan, if you're listening, I will send that information to you as soon as I get back to the house. What are we doing, or what are you doing to ensure that you're ready? To ensure that you're ready. What are you doing to manage the anxiety and the worry? What are you doing to be sure that you know that it's all going to be okay? We have these bumps in the road. It gets painful every once in a while. But at the end of the day, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. What is your playlist you have to play? Maybe I'll post my playlist today. My Get Rid of Anxiety playlist. I call it Grounded 2020. It's got some of everything on it too, y'all. I think I posted it before. What is your playlist that keeps you moving? Or what is your go-to thing? Is it reading books? Right? Mine is music, but is it reading books? What are you doing to make sure that you're continuing to have a life and you're doing what you need to do to bring yourself forward and move forward one step at a time at whatever the pace is you need it to be? Those are the things that are important. So I know, Jared, you voted early.
Yes.
How are you not feeding into like that anxiousness and that concern? Or are you just not worried at all?
I'm not, and the reason why is because I've had worry before, but now I just don't like it. And I know that sounds Pollyannish, but for me, and I told you before, I have to keep my mind together and my spirit together because I serve a lot of people. And when I say that, I serve a lot of people in ministry. So I know that has to be a balance, and I can't just get caught up in this. It is whatever God is going to say it is, but you said it right. Faith without works is dead, because some people will put it on, well, it's all up to God. Well, it's up to you too. You need to make your steps and get down there to the voting polls and make sure you make your voice heard. So once I know I've done what I was supposed to do and all I can do, I do stand on the fact that God is going to allow it to be whatever it's going to be, what he would want it to be. Even if he put the wrong people in position, because promotion comes from him, right? He still has a plan through all of that. And so, like you're saying, if we're panicky and if we're fearful and all that, then we're not the best us to serve on the platforms that he has given us to serve to a greater good. So I say chill. Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna bring the energy when I come. I'm gonna be turned up for voting day, right? But I think that's what's so important is that, you know, as I was walking this weekend and I was watching all these people and, you know, their dogs and their kids and I got to go early because it all those cheering make me nervous. They just make me nervous. Jerry talks about my energy, that child energy. It's just a lot for me. But as I was out there watching, and I posted this weekend, you know, I went to the Centennial Gardens at Memorial Park. For those of you who are not in Houston, it's part of the Herman Park area, like around the museums. And I've been in Houston forever. You know, my mom grew up here, so we've always been in Houston. I had never stepped my foot in this part of the garden, and it was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So zen and peaceful, beautiful flowers, lots of butterflies yesterday. And there was something I couldn't tell if it was lavender or honeysuckle or something. Thank you, Tisa. There was something in the air, right? That was just very pleasant. And then they have this, it's sort of a labyrinth, but it's an elevated labyrinth. So you walk up kind of this hill to the top, and then you walk down and there's like a water fountain and all this kind of stuff. I posted a picture on my Instagram and on my Facebook. I believe I did both, so you can see it. And as I was walking through there and really just kind of meditating and thinking and being peaceful, because as I started walking up this labyrinth, I don't have a fear of heights. I don't mind being up high, but I do have a fear of falling. So edges make me a little nervous, make me a lot nervous. So like Grand Canyon, when you go to the Grand Canyon, it's a canyon. It's huge. I can't get close to those edges, even with all the railing. I mean, literally my legs get shaky. I can feel the adrenaline moving. And so as I was walking up here, I thought, this is so weird. This is not that high. Even if I were to kind of fall and roll, it would hurt and I get bruised. But unless I really landed funny, I'm not gonna break anything. But I can always see myself tumbling downstairs and breaking out my teeth. I mean, y'all, it's a thing. And so as I'm there this weekend and looking at all of this and preparing for today, because I knew I was going to be nervous for today, knowing that I have not been watching the news. I have not been watching polls. I have not been watching all of that kind of stuff that makes me nervous. One, because we can't know. And it's not over till it's over. Two, we can't know until it's over. And three, whatever happens, we will respond as we've always responded. Worry doesn't help. Anxiety doesn't help. Fear doesn't help. None of those things help unless you turn those into positive action. Because fear is one of the things that's creating some of this other action that's going on right now. This hateful supremacist action is all based in fear. Fear of a loss of power, fear of a loss of control, fear of a loss of supremacy. That's all fear related, right? But if we can turn that worry and anxiety and fear into positive action for forward movement, where adults know how to have a conversation that may be dissenting, but know how to have it intelligently and compromise. That when you start your business or running your business, you have the ability and the desire to do such good work that you don't mind going back and looking at those numbers, even if you're concerned that they are not going to be what you want them to be. That you don't have a problem having a candid conversation with someone in your organization that is wreaking havoc on everyone else. That you don't have a problem asking for what you want in your job and in your company. That you don't have concern about holding people accountable for the commitments that they made and what they said. That you don't have a problem or fear or anxiety calling people out, right? Calling them out. Cancellation is easy. Calling out is hard. And I don't mean putting people on blast to be nasty. I mean, when you are calling someone out because what they've done is not the right thing and has severe impact and needs to be changed, that takes courage. So if you can turn that worry and concern and fear of confrontation into something positive that moves forward, then your worry and your anxiety and your fear become a superpower as opposed to a burden, right? They become something upon which you can stand and move forward as opposed to something that puts you 12 steps back. When you can take your worry and your anxiety and your fear and take just a baby step, even if that baby step is calling somebody and saying, I am really concerned. Can you help me talk through this? Even if it's saying, you know what, to your boss, I really need to talk about something that just occurred. Now I need a minute to just to gather my thoughts, but I need to have this conversation. Whatever it is that you need to do, right? I need to go ahead and spend this money, even though I'm concerned that I may never make it up, because I know you got to spend money to make money. I'm going to go ahead and go through all of my stuff and give everything that I don't need away, even though my voice is saying, ooh, but you might wear that. Ooh, but you might need that. I haven't needed it yet. How much more good works can it do if I just give it away? Right? Turning that fear and concern and worry and anxiety into something positive and impactful. That's what we do. That's what we do. We take those things that can be detrimental to us. We stand in our own power and we turn them into tools instead of weapons. And that doesn't mean you weaponize them against other people either. That means you take them to make an impact, right? And it's so powerful. And we all have this ability. We just got to own it and decide and move in that direction because we have the opportunity to do that. We really do. Okay, a few more things. I don't need that piece of paper. So we talked about voting. We talked about making sure you know where your polling places are. It is Gratitude Month. I'd love to know what you're thankful for, what you're going to take and turn this worry and anxiety and fear potentially into, and how you're showing gratitude this month. I have a something I'm doing on Friday to to feed me, right? Because remember, y'all have to hold me accountable. Remember, I said last week, it's like, you know what? I need to just start doing the things that I need to do for me, right? Stop waiting and start living. And it's just habit. Habits show up. Sometimes habits show up before we even know it. We say the thing we've always said. We feel the way we've always feel. We do the things we always did because it's habit, right? We don't even think about it. It just happens. And so for me, that habit is just keep churning. And so I need to break that habit and say, okay, I can keep churning, but sometimes I need to rest. Sometimes I need to go play golf. I need to just go take the class. I just need to go do the thing. I need to go spend that little bit of money to be able to make much more money to make a much bigger impact, right? And not be so fearful. Because if I truly believe that I'm living in my purpose and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, then prosperity comes. If you're in service, prosperity comes. And so how do we make those things happen? So I'm going to be doing that on Friday. Coming up here towards the end of the year, there are probably going to be a couple of days we're going to have to move some stuff around. And Jerry and I will talk about it, and I'll make sure you guys know. Stay tuned for more encore episodes for the Rutledge Perspective podcast that are coming up this month. So as I said, going forward, you will see new content 9 months out of the year, and then we'll do special episodes. Also looking at doing an interview series. So I interviewed some amazing people over the last several years of the podcast. So I'm going to put together kind of like an interview mashup. That may take a minute though, because I want to look at all of those. But kind of an interview mashup of just the amazing things that some of the folks I have interviewed have said, and put that out for folks. Also look for coming a community for interviews for Fireside as well. Now, final thing. We are in the holiday season. And it's a great time to continue to support small businesses and to support BIPOC businesses, right? Black owned, women owned, marginalized folks owned small businesses. It's a great time to support them during this holiday season. So, Greater Houston Black Chamber, I'm going to send you guys a note. If you are wanting to potentially have a short 15-second ad on the Rutledge Perspective radio show live here that happens weekly and that goes globally, right? Especially if you have a product that you can sell and ship globally, even if you have a service, reach out to me. You can find it on my website. But call me. Let's talk about it and make sure it makes sense. You can set up a time for us to chat on the phone. But the pricing is out there and all of that kind of stuff. And I would love to have you for the end of the year and be able to support these businesses. If you're looking for some advertising, happy to talk to you about that on the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show live, and support as I can with this platform. Just like I know that I've been given this for a purpose, and I'm always going to talk about voting and voting rights and what we need to do and showing up. Always, always, always. Also, if there's a way that I can use it to support and promote others, then I want to do that as well. So with that, thank y'all for another incredible day. Please vote. If you did not vote early, please vote today. Make a plan. I believe Lyft, I don't know about Uber, but I did see Lyft is doing free rides today. Uber did last election. So my guess is Uber's also doing free rides today. Contact the the League of Women Voters. Contact the NAACP. I know they're working in some states around getting people to the polls. Make sure you're paying attention to your polling place. Take your ballot, your sample ballot. Educate yourself on the folks. I mean, you only have a few hours now to educate on who's running. Make sure you understand how to ensure that your vote is cast. Ask for a provisional ballot if there's an issue there. And make sure that you are in line before the polls close so you can cast your vote today. Have a fantastic week. Have a great Tuesday. Thank you for showing up and being supportive. We will catch you next week, everybody. Bye.
You are tuned into the #1 station in the nation, KCOH TV.